Chapter 7. The Law of Attraction. There is in nature a great law, the law of attraction, by the operations of which all things, from atoms to men, are attracted toward each other in the degree of the common affinity of common use. The reverse of this law, which is merely another manifestation of its power, is what is called repulsion, which is but the other pole of attraction, and by the operations of which things tend to repel each other in the degree that they are unlike, opposing, and of no use to each other. The law of attraction is universal on all the planes of life, from the physical to the spiritual. Its operations are uniform and constant, and we may take the phenomena of one plane and thereby study the phenomena of another plane, for the same rule applies in each case, but the same law is in operation in the same way. Beginning with the tiny corpuscles, electrons or ions, of which the atoms are formed, we find manifested the law of attraction. Certain electrons attract each other and repel others still, thereby causing to spring into existing groups, combinations, and colonies of electrons which, being in agreement and harmony, manifest and constitute what are called atoms, which until recently was supposed to be the primal form of matter. Passing on the atoms themselves, we find many degrees of affinity and attraction existing between them, which cause them to combine and form into molecules of which all masses of matter consists. For instance, every drop of water is composed of countless molecules of water, and each molecule is composed of two atoms of hydrogen and one atom of oxygen, the combination always being the same in every molecule of water. Now, why these atoms combine in just this way, the same invariable grouping and proportion? Not by chance, surely, for there is no such thing in nature. There is a natural law back of every phenomenon, and in this case it is a law of attraction manifesting in the case of these atoms, and it is so in all chemical combinations. It is called chemical affinity. Sometimes an attached atom will come in contact with or in proximity to another atom, and then bang goes the explosion of the molecule as the atom flies away from its partners and into the arms of the other atom for which it has a greater affinity. There are marriages and divorces in the world of atoms, you will notice, and in the case of the molecules, it is found that certain molecules are attracted to others of the same kind, under what is called cohesion, and thus masses of matter are composed. A piece of gold, silver, tin, glass, or other form of matter is composed of countless molecules held together tightly by cohesion, and this cohesion is merely another form of the law of attraction, the same that draws all things together. And underlying the law of attraction is to be found our old principle of desire and will. You may shrug your shoulders at this mention of desire and will in connection with electrons, atoms, molecules, all forms of matter, but just wait a bit and see what the leading scientific authorities have to say on the subject. Professor Haeckel, one of the world's greatest scientists, a materialist who would sneer at the teachings of mental science, even this man, naturally prejudiced against mentalist theories, finds himself compelled to say, the idea of chemical affinity consists in the fact that the various chemical elements perceive the qualitative differences in other elements, experience pleasure of revulsion at contact with them, and execute specific movements on this ground. He also positively and distinctly states that in the atoms there must be something corresponding to desire for contact and association with other atoms, and will to enable the atom to respond to the desire law is constant throughout nature, from atom to man, physical, mental, and spiritual. But what has all this to do with the secret of success, you may ask? Simply that the law of attraction is an important part in the secret of success, inasmuch as it tends to bring to us the things, persons, and circumstances in accordance with our earnest desire demand, and will, just as it brings together the atoms and other particles of matter. Make yourself an atom of living desire, and you will attract to yourself the person, things, and circumstances fitting in with the accomplishment of your desire. You will also get into rapport with those who are working along the same lines of thought and will be attracted them and they to you. And you will be brought into relations with persons, things, and environments likely to work out the problem of your desires. You will get next to the right persons and things, all by the operation of this great natural law of attraction. No necromancy or magic about it at all. Nothing supernatural or mysterious, just the operations of a great natural law. You can do little by yourself in life. Be you ever so strong and able. Life is a complex thing, and individuals are interdependent upon each other for the doings of things. One individual, segregated from all the other individuals, could accomplish little or nothing along the lines of outer activity. He must form combinations, arrangements, harmonies, and agreements with others, and in accordance with environments and things. That is, he must create and use the proper environments and things and draw to himself others with whom he must form combinations in order to do things. And these persons, things, and environments come to him and he to them, by reason of this great law of attraction. And the way he sets into operation this great law of attraction is by the operation of his desire, and along the lines of mental imagery. Do you see the connection now? So be careful to form, cultivate, and manifest the right desires, hold to them firmly, strongly, and constantly, and you will set into operation this great law which forms an important part of the secret of success. Desire force is the motive power leading the activities of life. It is the basic vital power which animates the minds of living things and urges them forth to action. Without strong desire, no one accomplishes anything worthy of the name, and the greater the desire, the greater will be the amount of energy generated and manifested, everything else being equal. That is to say, that given a dozen men of equal intellect, physical health, and mental activity, equal in everything else except desire, in short, the ones in whom the greatest desire resides and is manifested will outstrip the others in attainment. And of these winners, the one in whom desire burns like an unquenchable flame will be the one who will master the others by the force of his primitive elementary power. Not only does desire give to the man that inward motive which leads to the enfoldment of the power within himself, but it does more than this. It causes to radiate from him the finer and more subtle mental and vital forces of his nature, which, flowing forth in all directions like the magnetic waves from the magnet or the electric waves from the dynamo, influencing all who come within the field of force. Desire force is a real, active, effective force of nature and serves to attract, draw, and bring to a center that which is in line with the nature of the desire. The much talked of law of attraction, of which so much is heard in mental science and the new thought, depends largely upon the force and power of desire. Desire force is at the center of the law of attraction. There is a tendency in nature to attract and draw to the center of a desire the things which are needed to fulfill that desire. One's own will come to him by reason of his natural force, which lies behind and underneath the entire phenomena of mental influence. This being so, does it not become at once apparent why one who wishes to accomplish anything should be sure to create a strong desire for it, and at the same time be sure to acquire the art of visualization so as to form a clear mental picture of the thing desired, a clear mold in which the materialized reality may manifest? Have you ever come in contact with any of the great men of modern business life? If you have seen these people in action, you will have become conscious of a subtle, mysterious something about them, a something that you could actually feel, a something that seemed to draw you to fit into their schemes, plans, and desires almost by an irresistible force. These people are all people of the strongest kind of desire. Their desire force manifests strongly and affects those with whom they come in contact. Not only this, but that desire force flows from them in great waves, which occultists inform us soon manifests as circular or whirlpool like motions, swing around and around the center of the desire. These men become actual cyclones of desire into which nearly everything that comes within its sweep is affected and swept into the vortex. Have we not evidences of this in the case of all the great leaders of men? Can we not see the operation of that mighty law of attraction which brings to them their own? We are apt to call this willpower, and so it is in a way. Back and under the will in such cases is to be found the ardent, burning desire that is the motive force of the attractive power. This desire force is a primitive, elemental thing. It is found in the animal kingdom and among the lower races of men, perhaps more clearly than among the higher types of men, but only because in such instances it is seen stripped of the cowering, sheaths, disguises, and masks that surround the more civilized forms and planes of life. But remember this well, the same principle is manifested under and beneath the polished veneer of civilized life. The desire force of the cultured leader of men is as elemental as that animating the fierce and shaggy caveman or the wild berserker who, naked and half mad, rushed upon overwhelming hordes of his enemy, brushing them aside like flies. That is, if you will but look beneath the polished surface. In the old wild days, desire manifested its force on the physical plane. Now it manifests on the mental plane. That is the only difference. The force is the same in both cases.